When we think about the biggest challenges facing us today, water scarcity is right up there at the top of the list. You know the images, right? Cracked earth, empty reservoirs. But what if that's not really the whole story? What if we're looking at the problem all wrong? Let's get into it. I mean, really think about that for a second. What if the problem isn't that the planet is running dry? What if the crisis is something we've built ourselves? Answering that question, well, it could change how you see every single drop of water on Earth. So, when the taps run dry, our first instinct is to look up at the sky, right? We blame the lack of rain, we blame climate change, we blame a long drought. It's the story we all know, the one that makes us feel like we're just victims of a planet that's turning against us. And this really breaks down the two ways of seeing it. On one hand, you have the common view. Scarcity is just bad luck. It's fate. But then there's this other idea, the structural view, which says something completely different. It argues that scarcity is a man-made crisis, that it's actually a problem of design, driven by our laws, our choices, and the things we build. So, let's go down that rabbit hole. This gets to the real heart of the argument, the idea that we don't just find scarcity, we actually engineer it. We build it into our systems, a lot of the time without even realizing what we're doing. And that brings us to this key term, structural scarcity. The big idea here is that water shortages are actually born from our own systems. Think of it this way. Climate change isn't the thing that starts the fire. It's the wind that fans the flames of a fire we already lit. It's an accelerant, you see, not the origin. This phrase just nails it. It boils everything down. Scarcity is design, not fate. Because if we designed our way into this mess, that means something really powerful. It means we can design our way out of it. It takes the power away from random chance and puts it right back in our hands. So here's a perfect example of that flawed design in action. Just look at this total mismatch of clocks. Corporations plan in quarterly cycles. Politicians think in 2 to 4 year election cycles. But the dams and canals we build, they're supposed to last for 50 years or more. And the underground aquifers we're draining, they can take thousands of years to refill. Our short-term thinking is dangerously, completely out of sync with water's deep geological time. And this isn't just about bad planning. It's about something bigger. When we build these huge water projects, we're not just moving water around. We're literally building monuments to power. We're pouring our ideologies and our politics right into the concrete. And you can see this happening all over the world. The Hoover Dam wasn't just about getting electricity. It was a symbol of an American ideal to tame the wild frontier. China's massive Three Gorges Dam was a statement about centralized state power. Ethiopia's new dam on the Nile gives it immense leverage over Egypt downstream. Every one of these projects creates winners and losers, and it locks a political deal into the physical landscape for generations. But what happens when these huge designs, these big political bargains, start to fail? Well, the consequences aren't just felt in politics. The physical world itself starts to break down. The very ground beneath our feet starts keeping a record of our mistakes. And here's a jaw-dropping example of that. 8 meters. That is over 26 feet. California's San Joaquin Valley, the place that grows a quarter of America's food, has literally sunk that far because we've been pumping out groundwater way faster than nature can ever hope to replace it. This isn't just some slow leak. It's a catastrophic collapse of the foundation of our food system. It's happening in our biggest cities too. Mexico City, a massive metropolis built on an old lake bed, is literally consuming its own foundation. It's sinking at a terrifying rate every year. The city is caught in this self-destructive loop, draining the aquifers it sits on, which causes the ground to collapse, which then breaks the very pipes that are supposed to carry the water it needs. So that brings us to the human consequences. Because when the physical systems break down, it's not just about a lack of water flowing through a pipe. It's about the loss of something way more fundamental, trust. And things can fall apart so quickly. A single failure in a water system doesn't just stay there. It kicks off a domino effect. Irrigation fails, which leads to hunger. That fractures communities and cities. People are forced to migrate, and that can and does ignite violent conflict. It's a cascade of fragility. Which brings us to another really big idea, hydrolegitimacy. It's basically the trust and credibility that a government has based on its ability to manage water for its people. When a state can't do that, it's not just the concrete dams that are cracking, it's the social contract. It's the government's basic right to govern that gets called into question. And the scale of this crisis of legitimacy, it is so much worse than we realized. For years, the official UN estimate was that 2 billion people lacked safely managed drinking water. But new research shows the real number is more than double that, 4.4 billion people. That's over half the human population. The problem isn't just about access, you see, it's about quality. It's water that's there, but simply can't be trusted. And as this whole crisis gets deeper, the very nature of power over water is changing. In the 20th century, power meant controlling the physical stuff, the dams, the rivers. It was all about statecraft. But today, power is shifting into the digital world. It's about who writes the algorithms that decide who gets water, who controls the AI that models where the shortages will be, and who is tokenizing water rights on a blockchain. Power is shifting from statecraft to codecraft. Okay, so if scarcity is a problem of our own design, and our old designs are clearly breaking, what do we do? Where do we go from here? The answer, it seems, lies in a huge mental shift, from seeing ourselves as victims of fate to recognizing our own power, our own agency. And the great news is the solutions we need aren't science fiction, they're real, they're proven, and they're ready to go. We're talking about everything from high-tech drip irrigation that can slash water use in farming, to the simple, incredibly powerful act of protecting a forest or restoring a wetland to act as a natural sponge. You've places like Singapore and Israel that are already showing the world how reusing wastewater can create a secure, nearly endless supply. The agency is real. And that power, that agency, it doesn't just belong to presidents and prime ministers. It exists at every single level. Yeah, it's in our individual habits, but it's even more powerful in the institutional rules we write, the building codes, the zoning laws, the decisions made in corporate boardrooms. And of course, it's in our collective action, when we demand a better design from our leaders. Which brings us right back to where we started. Scarcity isn't our fate, it is a structure. And that structure is still being built every single day with every choice we make. The crisis of hydrolegitimacy is, in the end, a crisis of imagination. So the final question really isn't whether we'll have enough water. The real question is, who are we going to let be its architects?